afternoon. How can I help you? Oh, I see. So you want to find some information about strange and unusual things in the area of East Anglia specifically. Okay. Well, you've come to the right place. If your focus is on the area of East Anglia, then we can look at that. For those of you who don't know where East Anglia is, these are the counties such as Suffolk, Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, Essex. They make up the East area of England, and they have an ancient and rich history for all things, but they are also known to be quite haunted, to have a lot of mythology, a lot of superstition as well. So we can have a look at a few here. If you are interested in this type of thing and you would like to visit areas in East Anglia, one of the recommendations I would make is to visit the old jailhouse in King's Lynn. And it has a very eerie feel to it actually, but it's also very interesting. It talks here that this poor unfortunate woman in 1616 called Mary Smith had been accused of witchcraft. She had been said to have cursed her family, apparently a rival family of glove makers who were possibly doing better than her, and she cursed the patriarch, if you like, of the family, whose fingers became infected and had to be amputated. It was seen as witchery, and for her misdemeanour she was put to death at the marketplace in King's Lynn. I have to say that when I visited this museum some years ago, there is an old stake post there. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's quite grim to think about it, but it is a big part of British history, unfortunately, and may I say other parts of the world, Salem, America of course, but notoriously we have Matthew Hopkins here, who was the perpetrator, if you like, of the witch hunts. We have some strange superstitions that also are said to come from East Anglia, but one of them is to do with things you might experience that are considered to be unlucky. So it talks about if a bumblebee flies into a house and dies, then sickness is going to fall on the family. Superstitions, obviously. Creaking door or furniture is meant to mean misfortune in a house. I can see that there would be a link here. namely that a door may fall off and hit you on the foot or something, but it's interesting to see how these people would think, and did they really believe this? The other place that's quite famously supposed to be haunted in Norfolk is Blicklin Hall, which has apparently seen the ghost of Anne Boleyn many times. She's been sighted. I've been there a few times. Can't say I've ever seen her. I don't know if she's headless or not. Yeah, so there are a few things that you could visit and look at if you're really interested in this kind of thing. One of the punishments for somebody who was drunk, a drunkard, somebody who had been excessively drinking, had a very simple punishment. This was in the 17th and 18th century. He would be made to wear a drunkard's cloak, which consisted of a barrel of beer, and they would cut out holes for his arms and legs, and he'd have to walk. I say him, seems to predominantly have been a male thing. He'd have had to have been led through the town as a sort of mark of humiliation. Yeah. There are, interestingly, some local stories that I have heard of over the years, local to East Anglia, predominantly Norfolk and Suffolk areas. So one of the famous sightings is along certain roads, namely the road from Norwich to London. There's been unusual sightings of a figure that nobody can make out what it is. Tends to appear in snowstorms. So one man describes he's driving back from a night out in Norwich and he's going home to London. It's quite a drive, but twice on this journey he sees this strange figure in a snowstorm trying to cross quite a busy road. He catches this figure in the headlights of the car, tries to swerve to miss it, but there's nothing there. This is sometimes a very common phenomenon. I wonder if it is natural phenomena creating shapes, or if it is something else. Who are we to say? There is apparently, if you're interested in strange mythical creatures and things that wander, there is a black dog of Bungay. This is actually a new one to me, who was first spotted in 1577 and had made havoc in a church where people were kneeling and praying, and he, by all accounts, seems to have eaten them by wringing their necks and consuming them. There's another story, local story, of a face that will appear in a lake over by the Broads, part of East Anglia. Apparently the face is a female face that's very beautiful, and people see this face and think it's something in the water, and it's not. This is a positive omen, which makes a refreshing change. So to see her as a blessing, she's seen as a good sign. And the story is told that she wanted to elope with her knight, I think we can say the word boyfriend, partner, fiance, intended, and was forbidden to do it by her father, and consequently he killed her. So her face is seen as a blessing, if you see it. Equally, there are some mentions of strange monk-like hooded figures that will wander in certain parts of the woods. People think they see something there, and it disappears, of course. I wanted to finish with a little story of my own. And I hope that these books will be helpful in your project and will give you some inspiration. You probably have heard of a place called Borley Rectory, which is in Essex. This is a place that has been famously known as the most haunted house in Britain for quite a few decades. There is a film made of it. It was famously brought to the attention of the general public, really in the middle of the last century, by Harry Price, who was a famous paranormal investigator. I don't know how places can become so famous for something. They, of course, begin to get, if you like, myth busted. Eventually people begin to say, no, it was a hoax, or it was this, and I find trying to find the truth in these stories absolutely fascinating. But I did visit the site, but I didn't want to make a nuisance of myself or trespass or anything like that. I just wanted to see where it was. Now, of course, the old house burnt down, I think in the 1940s, which had apparently been predicted through writings on the wall. All that's left is a very old wall that would have bordered the property. And opposite is a very old church, which is also said to be haunted. Apparently, a young nun is supposed to haunt the area and is the most predominant ghost. She was said to have suffered a very cruel death of immurement, so buried in the wall, because she had, similarly to our previous story, was accused of trying to run away with a monk from the monastery, which was on the old site. I travelled out one November afternoon on a late Sunday, and it was about 4 or 5 p.m. It was dark, It was very atmospheric. There was plenty of mist starting to lift up from the fields, roll in from the hedgerows. And me and my then partner, we decided that we would drive just to see it. And the roads got very narrow, as they do, and we approached the village of Borley. We located the site, but as I said, we didn't want to, get out, walk around or anything like that. We just acknowledged it, drove on, saw the church. It's just interesting to see it. About 100, 200 yards down the road, we'd left the village. Hadn't seen it, hadn't experienced anything. And then we were aware of a mist that was just beginning to get very thick, actually, and aware that it was getting quite late and dark and not very pleasant. Suddenly the car stalled and the lights went, obviously. And I was trying not to feel too terrified about this. My partner, he got out, took the torch, tried to see what could be wrong. Got back in, turned the engine. By now, I was feeling a little bit panicky. And I said a bit of a prayer. Turned the engine the third time. And of course it started. Lights on. Drove home quite quickly. So, was it an old car that needed servicing? Was the battery about to die? Or was it something else? I'll leave that with you.